One of the important things that you want to consider when you're moving to Canada is which province and which city to move to. When we're moving to Canada, we started considering these things way before we even got the invitation to apply. Finally decided to live in Edmonton. I know a lot of people think that Edmonton is very cold, deserted place, but we have found it to be very comfortable, very serene and very quiet, but very, economically viable for the things that we want to do. So I'm going to be taking you through the things that we considered that you might want to consider in your move to Canada. So first of all, a lot of people would want to land in a city where they have family or community support, right? Maybe you have some friends in the city and you are thinking, I land, who is going to pick me up at the airport? Where am I going to stay for the first few days? Will I be able to move around town to get my SIM card, to do other forms of applications and registrations, looking for a job, getting my kids into school, getting my first groceries and all that. So it's a big determinant for a lot of people. You want to be able to have a friend take you to the mall, show you around, say you can get this here, you can get that here, especially when you're arriving in winter, where to get your jacket and all that, and you do not have a car at that time. So that is realistic, right? So you want to land in a city like that. That is it for some people. We came into Edmonton with only one contact, and I know a lot of people say that was wild, right? But we had considered other factors, and we knew that we're ready to brace whatever would come. And so for you, if you decide that because you have family and friends in a particular city, you are going to land there, that is fine. But let's be realistic. You may not be able to live with that person for the longest time, maybe at most a month or 3 months, especially when you have kids. It may, be a bit difficult, challenging, merging 2 or more families into one home. So you would start thinking about getting your own accommodation. Now, housing is one of the things you need to consider when you're choosing your city. We know that in the recent past, there's been housing issues in Canada, which is getting better now, so you want to consider a city where housing is affordable. For example, you know that if you are going to Ontario, it's very expensive, as compared to some other places. Maybe if you are looking for a 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom apartment, you are going to get double the price of what in Ontario as you would get it in some parts in Alberta, right? So these are things that you need to consider. You need to consider your finances and then look at the housing situation and decide that would it be easy for me to get housing here? And even if somebody is housing me for the first month when I arrive, if I decide to live in that same city and I do not have a job for, let's say, 3 months or 6 months, will I be able to afford housing in that city for the next 6 months that I do not have a job? Right, so you need to research and know the housing situation in that city. For us, these are some of the things that we considered. So we looked at the housing market and realized that, okay, in Alberta, things are fairly less expensive. Housing is less expensive than you would find in Ontario. I have a sibling in Ontario, but when we did the analysis, realized that it would be more realistic for us to move to Alberta. Yes, in Ontario, in some of the less congested cities, like maybe you're looking at Kitchener or London, it may be less expensive, right? But comparing it to other provinces, it may be cheaper to move to those provinces. For example, if you are thinking about moving to BC, BC is expensive as well. So you'd want to do your research and know what you can afford as a family, right? Or as an individual if you are coming alone. Apart from housing, you have things to consider like groceries, your everyday living. You know that in Alberta, we are not charged certain taxes, which makes our groceries less expensive than you would have in other provinces, right? So you need to consider all these things. Now, if you are talking about housing, if you're planning to maybe buy a house in future, you need to really study the housing environment to see that, okay, if I want to buy a 3-bedroom house in future, what are the going rates, let's say in Ontario compared to Alberta, or the going rates compared to BC? right? We looked at this and we knew that, okay, if our future goal is to buy a house, buying a house in Edmonton is relatively less expensive than if we're going to buy a house in Ontario. We could get a house in Edmonton for maybe, let's say, $450,000, whereby the same house will be about $1 million in Ontario, right? So these are the things that you need to factor in. What are your future goals? And then in the current situation, how much are you able to afford in relation to housing, which is very key, and then your grocery expenses. Now, of course, you are moving into Canada because you are coming in to apply your skills to have better job opportunities, right? So you have to research into the sector you are coming in. As I mentioned earlier, every province has their economic situation and what they focus on. I know that in Alberta, they are very focused on the oil sector. In other provinces, it varies. However, you would also find other sectors that are beginning to thrive in these provinces. When we were coming, one of the things I was considering was to pivot into another career to maintain what I was already doing. You're looking at the licensure and all those things, so you need to research into that. And what support will you get in the province if you want to get licenses in your current career? You know, that is if your career is one that requires licensing. But I was also thinking about pivoting into tech as well, and I found this amazing program in Alberta, and I realized that, okay, it would be a good decision for us to move to Alberta because Alberta has a thriving tech community. Okay, so those are the things that you need to factor in. However, as much as maybe the city that you are going to may have a booming industry, for example, tech is really booming in Ontario, right? But you would want to compare to another province that has a similar growth rate or is also coming up in the same industry. Then you know that, okay, it may not be as congested in that province as it is in the other province that's already booming, right? I heard the story of a gentleman who was coming into the banking sector. He did his research and he realized that, okay, Saskatchewan has a growing banking sector at the time that he was coming in. So he did his research and decided to land there and apply for jobs there, and it worked out very well for him because it wasn't as congested, right? So as much as you may have a booming province or city that's vibing and all that, you want to look at what are the opportunities for growth, what are the gaps that I can go there and fill with my skills that people are not really moving there. So you find that these days people are really considering rural Canada because there are lots of opportunities for growth there, and landing them may make your job search easier as opposed to moving where there are lots of people. Yes, you think that you may get referrals, but competition there for jobs are really fierce, and so you limit the opportunities that are open to you. But if you go to a province where it's thriving, it's not coming up, businesses are looking for people, you have the opportunity to pitch your skills, then you know that you have more opportunities. So one, you need to research the industry that's thriving in the province that you are going in, look at the opportunities there, compare it and see whether it's more competitive or less competitive. You get what I mean? And then you can position yourself to grow there. So don't just focus on the big cities. You need to put yourself out there and look at where you can possibly thrive in relation to your job prospects. Now, in relation to job searching, you're also looking at your work-life balance. We know that maybe if you're coming from Africa, you may have a system, or Asia, you may have a system where you have, you know, a big community support. You can, especially when your kids are on vacation, you can leave them with somebody and then go to work, right? But here you want to look at where you can get that work-life balance. You know, the traffic situation. If I drop my kids in school and I'm going to work, how much time does it take me to get there? You know, how is the environment like and all that. So you want to be able to balance that out. If you are thinking about doing remote work, you have to also consider that, and you know which city will afford you that benefit of having that, especially when you're coming in with family, right? You're considering where you want to raise your kids. For us, we're big on where we wanted to raise our kids. We didn't want a city that was too busy and too bustling. We wanted a city that was serene and calm, but still gave our kids the exposure that they needed to thrive, right? So we find that Edmonton is very calm. Is if you're somebody who likes vibing at night and all that. I mean, you can have your community where you know, have your fun and all that, but generally Edmonton is on the quieter side. It's not as congested, you know, everybody's going about their thing and it's very laid back a bit. That's what I find, but the economy is still booming. So we considered all these things and we're like, you know what, we are coming from Accra and it's very bustling, so it would be nice to come to a place where it's quiet. I'm still getting used to the quietness, but it's quieter. We can still do the work that we want to do. Our boys can go to school, you know, and thrive and still have that city feel, you know, but still be able to have that sense of community and, you know, be laid back. But if you're somebody who likes a place that, you know, is vibing, there's a lot of activity downtown, you know, and all that, you may want to consider all that, because maybe you are single, you enjoy the nightlife, and so you want a place that has a bigger community and all that. So that is one thing that you may want to consider when you have, especially when you're coming in with your kids. You want to also look at the kind of schools that are available, you know, within the city that you are going into. What programs do they have? What extracurricular activities are in the city that you are moving in? You know, all those things you plan ahead. Now you also need to look at access to healthcare and community resources. Okay, so you want to come to a place where it's easy to find a family doctor. It's fairly easy to get into a walk-in clinic. The wait hours in the emergency centers are shorter. I heard a lot of stories about people coming to Canada and not getting family doctors and all that. When we came into Edmonton, I mean, getting a family doctor, I called a couple of clinics and told them we're newcomers, and I think I called about 3. We got a clinic that was open, had a doctor that was taking new patients. So in Canada, how it works is that you go to the clinic or you call the clinic and tell them that you want to register as a patient, right? And they'll let you know if they have a doctor available who is accepting patients. So everybody's assigned to a doctor, unless you have an emergency situation and your doctor is fully booked at that time and you need to go into emergency or go into a walk-in clinic, right? But the walk-in clinics are not sustainable. You'd want to register with a doctor who has your health history, you know, and can monitor your progress in case of anything. People in Ontario or other places who have had to wait very long, you know, sometimes about a year before they can get a family doctor. So this is something that you need to consider. You need to look at the population size of the city you are moving in, the kind of facilities available, and how it is, you know, to get some of these things done. So you can speak to people already there or do your research online and be sure that wherever you are going, you have access to these life essential services. So it's a big thing that you need to consider. You know that in the bigger cities, their populations are larger and it will be difficult for you to get in, especially maybe you have an emergency and you call a doctor and they are booked for months and it's difficult to get family. Also, you want to consider, I think, one of the security, right? I did a lot of research, you know, online, comparing the crime rates in different cities and all that. I mean, sometimes because it's online, you can't really get, you know, tangible feel of what it's like. So if you have people here, you can talk to them. How's the crime rate like, you know, and all that. I mean, definitely the crime rate may not be as compared to some places that we are coming from, but you need to also do that comparison, you know, in the sense that crime is everywhere, right? And you don't want to expose yourself or your kids to certain things. So you would want to research the province, the city, you know, even the location, the city you are coming in, how's the crime rate like, how's the community like, you know, and be careful where you are moving to so that you are safe as well, you know. One big thing is the weather. I know people don't like Edmonton for the weather because we have very long winters and our winters can be pretty harsh, like -35 and all that. You know, but once you, like they say, there's nothing like bad weather, it's how you dress. You know, once you dress well, you can go about your normal duties and all that. And again, you need to compare the factors and see what's more important to you. Are you willing to pay more for housing and then live in a warmer place like BC where, you know, the sun is shining even when it's winter and all that? Or you want to be able to live comfortably within your means, you know, whilst also adjusting to the weather, because eventually you get used to it. Spring comes and the weather gets better over time. So that's one of the things. And for example, we are in Edmonton, and I know in Calgary there are sometimes in the winter that you have the Chinook winds that make the place feel warmer. Edmonton doesn't have that, so people might want to be in Calgary. But then again, for us, when we did a comparison between Calgary and Edmonton, we realized that okay, Calgary is very fast paced. I know that people who come from Nigeria have said that it feels like Lagos. It feels very fast paced and all that. And we wanted a place that was calmer, and we could go about things without all the hustle and bustle. So yeah, that's what you want to consider, the weather, especially if you're a family where you have maybe allergies and you have a condition that doesn't take well to the weather. You may want to consider whether the very extreme weather is good for you or not. I mean, if you're going to put somewhere like Saskatchewan, you have to be ready for the very cold winters. Some people may not want to have the big city feel where there are tall buildings and all that. Really enjoy being close to nature, the mountains, and have a lot of lakes. And I've met people who have said that Edmonton has a lot of greenery, in spring and summer, but in winter it's really dry. So in spring and summer I have a lot of greenery in the parks, and you can go to the lakes. And Calgary, we have Banff, we have the Canadian Rockies all around us, so it's really nice. So for a lot of people, these are some of the things that they may want to consider. Now, as much as you'd say that okay, looking at job opportunities, sometimes it's better to go closer to rural Canada rather than the big cities. You also want to consider that okay, would I have a sense of community there? Will it be easy for me to find diversity, or to find maybe my African stores and all those things? So if you are big on that, then you would want to consider that as well. Will it be easy for me to adjust in a place where there's less diversity, or I can't find my African stores and all that? So based on your personal circumstances, you sit down and think about what's more important to me, and then decide where you want to land. Sometimes you can even land in a place, that is more suitable for you at the points that you are in, per your finances, per your family situation, per your goals. And then with time, you may decide, okay, you know what, we've settled in, we can afford this and that, or we want to have a different feel of the country, and then you can move to another city. So for us, these are the things that we considered and why we eventually decided to choose Edmonton, Alberta. And we love it here. It's very peaceful, it's calm. Yes, the winter is there, but we are enjoying it. Our kids are enjoying the school. So let me know in the comment section, which province are you considering moving to? Why? Are you having doubts? What factors are you considering? Which city are you considering? Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and share with others on their relocation journey. Thank you for watching.